G'day everyone, welcome back to another video. You might be thinking of getting platies for the first time, or you might have had them for a while and you want to know some cool things about them or some tips. Well, you've come to the right place, because today I'm going to be giving you 5 things I reckon every fish keeper should know. And these are 5 things that I've learned over the years of keeping platies. Stick around to the end so you don't miss out on any 5 things, and consider subscribing as I do weekly aquarium videos just like this. But with that all aside, let's get straight into the video. So the first thing I think you'll need to know is that they give birth to live young. So platies are live bearers and they're very different to egg-laying fish. Instead of them laying eggs on surfaces in the aquarium or scattering the eggs, instead they're going to have the eggs develop in the mother's belly, kind of like mammals. If you're breeding platies, this takes away the whole side of having to collect the eggs and hatch them and wait for them to start free swimming. But once they're out of the mother's belly, they're ready to be moved out of the aquarium and start feeding on powder foods or baby brine shrimp. I've done all sorts of videos on how to breed platies and tell if they're pregnant and that sort of thing. I'll leave a link to a playlist on all about that in the description if you want to check that out. But other than that, it's not really much to it. It's really that simple, and you just got to know that because platies are going to breed like crazy. So if you have a male and a female, then they're going to start overpopulating the tanks straight away. But the cool thing about platies is that male and females both look equally as amazing. There's no different colorations or more colorful males or that sort of thing. They're both really the same thing. You tell male and females using that anal fin, which is that fin closest to the anus. The females will be triangular and fanned out, whereas you'll have your male who has a stick-like anal fin, which is called a gonopodium. I put this on the list because it is a really big thing about these fish and what makes them such great fish for those people who want to breed fish or see some babies swimming around in their aquarium. Number 2, feed a varied diet. Now what this means is if you feed flake foods to your platies every single day, they're going to be bored of that. You know, they're just going to be eating the same thing every day. It's just like eating cereal every day for the rest of your life. So for the best coloration out of your platies, and just because in the wild they eat all sorts of different things, like maybe some veggie matter. They also have meaty foods like maybe dead fish. I know, a bit gross, but it's true. They also would probably eat like larvae and that sort of thing. So if you want to mimic the natural environment for the platies, which I highly suggest, I really recommend you feed a varied diet so they can get everything they'll need. Like they'll need their nutrition, all their veggie matter and that sort of thing. So I highly recommend you feed like maybe some pellets, also some frozen foods. They're really easy to find. You can also feed them live foods if you can find cultures and that sort of thing. If you want to try to keep it very simple though, you can just feed them prepared foods like flakes or pellets and that sort of thing, but it's up to you. Feed a varied diet though, your platies will appreciate it and you'll get rewarding results out of it too. Okay, now this is not necessary for keeping platies, but it's a tip. I recommend you keep live aquarium plants. First of all, it makes the tank look natural and it actually helps filter the water, get away all those bad stuff in the water like ammonias, nitrates, all those things that are going to kill your platies. You might need to get some fertilizers or root tabs so that the plants actually grow, and maybe some good lighting, but you have to do further research on the specific plants you want to get for your platies, but basically anything's fine because platies aren't vegetarians, so they won't go eating your plants, which is great. Highly suggest you get live plants. They love it and it's what's in their natural environment, and to mimic that is really important. So and it just makes the hobby even more fun, and they're not usually that expensive depending on the ones you want to get. And there's also plenty of videos out there for beginner plants that you can start off with if you're a beginner and you're not an expert with keeping aquarium plants at all. Okay, so some principles for your setup, some things that I highly suggest you put in your platy aquarium if you haven't set it up already. And if you have already set it up, maybe you can replace something with this, because I'm going to try to keep this as low budget as possible. But the first thing I recommend you have in your setup is a sponge filter. Even though you might not have breeding, it just ensures that your platy's not going to have a hard time swimming with all that current in the water and all the water being pushed through the filter. Plus also having a filter is important. Make sure you have a filter with your platies because they do poop quite a bit, and otherwise there'll be a buildup of ammonias, high nitrates and nitrites, which will kill your fish. You want to stop that from happening and you want your fish to be in a healthy environment, so I highly suggest you have some water movement, which is used to also oxygenate the water. Try to find some natural looking substrate to get a really nice coloration out of your platies, a more natural one, and something like kind of brown gravel, something you'd see in your local creeks or waterways, or search up places that you have known to see platies in and you look at those places there and see what it's like, and use a substrate that looks like that. Substrate is really important because it does actually bring out different colorations in a lot of fish, even platies. Sand also works really great, and any of those planted aquarium substrates you can find out there too. If you do further research, they all do really well. And lastly, have some hardscape in your aquarium. Platies do not originate from places where it's just empty with maybe a few live plants. They have all these sort of rocks and pebbles. It makes the tank look interesting, and also maybe try to find some hardscape like driftwood or spiderwood, something they're going to be able to like have fun playing in. See if you can just get maybe some rocks and stack them together and have little gaps or caves in the tank. They'll really love that. Okay, so this is a really important factor when keeping platies. You've got to know what fish to keep with platies. Now, platies are super peaceful. They're community fish and they're not going to bother any other fish in the tank. If you have a big group, they're going to be even less likely to have a nip at another fish. Now, you might see males chasing females around, and that's natural. In fact, that's just the males breeding with the females. When it comes to keeping platies with the fish that aren't platies themselves, then I highly suggest you just stick with the rule where you find fish that aren't going to bother the platy. Fish that aren't prone to nipping at other fish's fins or just chasing them around. You're going to have something fast like danios. I highly suggest you get a school of them so that they won't chase around the platies and tire them out and kill them. So to prevent that from happening, I highly suggest you get big groups and big numbers of fish so that they're occupied with each other and not with the platies. And as long as you pick up other peaceful community fish, you should be fine with your platies. And if you have any further questions on tank mates for platies, I know a whole bunch and I'll be able to tell you if they're alright or not with platies. So just let me know in the comments. But that wraps up the video there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give a thumbs up, but also subscribe. But with that all being said, have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.